Welcome back everyone, Alex Tzavaras here, back with my second interview with another highly accomplished realist artist that I admire very much. Today we're very lucky to have Benjamin Hope, who has recently been elected to the New English Arts Club and is also a fellow South Londoner, or not originally, but you live in South London.
I do, yeah.
And to give you a bit of background, that's how I first came across Ben's work, seeing the painting you did of Camberwell Grove, which is at the time very close to where I lived, so it was a view that I was very familiar with.
Yeah.
And also Herne Hill.
Yep.
And much as you've done, well, as I say, South London hasn't been captured on canvas as often as other parts of London.
That's, yeah, I wonder why.
You're much used to seeing kind of more central London and West London, and which you have painted many times as well.
Yeah.
And then we met at the Dulwich Art Group, which is a place where I teach in South London, and I sort of became more aware of your other work, like the figure painting and portraits and stuff like that, of which you're also very highly accomplished.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's quite, not necessarily quite rare, but there's not so many artists. We tend to specialise. So I tend to do mainly portraiture, whereas you have pretty good all-round.
Yeah, I think I had that sort of aim from the start. Yeah. Partly through seeing people like Tom Coates. Right. He always does a bit of everything.
Bit of everything. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I've only later on, I think me being kind of a bit more of a city boy, wasn't so drawn to landscape painting, or found it challenging with the kind of changing environment as compared to studio painting. So it's only later on, as I've gotten probably a bit more long in the tooth of portrait painting, that I've decided to go outside and kind of break the back of it. Yeah. And well, speaking of like portraiture, that is another thing that you know, your portrait of your mother from 2018 in the RP, we were both in the RP that year.
We were, yeah.
And again, that was what also brought me attention to how good you were as a portrait painter.
Right.
The other thing is when the different mediums and your pastels. So what got you into pastels?
What got me into pastel? My mum, actually.
Right.
Well, in fact, she got me into painting from the start. But in pastels in particular, she always did. She loved them, and so I think in 2014 I got my first set. Right. And I just found them very immediately, very easy to use for some reason. Okay. And I've since started doing oil pastels as well, which a lot of people hate, but I quite like them as well. The thing about pastels is the pigment is very intense because it's there's even less other stuff in it compared to oil paints. Right. So it's a bit of pigment and binder.
So much brighter.
So it's kind of you can get amazing colour very easily.
And you don't mix the colours, do you? So you literally, do you use sort of optical mixing?
Yes, I do personally. A lot of people do blend them on the surface. I find they get too muddy too quickly, so I tend to do very gentle sort of scribbles almost, and let the colours optically mix, as you say.
Because that for me, that's always like people who can paint with different mediums as well. Because I've obviously just done colour in oils and charcoal. But I'm always a bit envious of people who are really good at pastels and also watercolours as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm envious of the watercolour.
Yeah, so I've always got a lot of respect for the kind of multi...
That's the one medium I still find. Yeah,
I think it's a different kettle of fish. I don't know. It's anyway, that's another can of worms. Yeah. So when did you start painting? You mentioned...
I can't remember because I was so young. Right. So as I said, my mum paints, and so my grandfather was a prolific oil painter as well in his retirement, and all my cousins are drawing all the time. So from as long as I can remember, it was all around me basically, and I mean I think I started even on oils quite young.
Right. So when was that?
Certainly well before the age of 10.
Wow.
I was using my mum's work, I think.
Brilliant. Because that's very unusual for people to use.
I guess so, it's probably toxic and all that. So, but I was also using watercolour at that age. Right, but very, very badly, obviously. Yeah. And gouache and stuff.
And were you always doing like painting from life at that age?
Yeah, yes, I was. But I think most people do at that age.
Well, like as if, for instance, myself who drew as a child, but I never actually did anything from I drew figuratively, but it was all kind of illustration out of my imagination.
Out of your imagination, yes.
Rather than actually observational.
Yes, I think it was both in my case.
Yeah.
So when we were on holiday or whatever, my cousin would be sitting there drawing a picture of a shell from the beach or something, and I'd do the same or whatever. And so there was a lot of that going on. So you kind of
taught to do observational and actually doing plein air as well like that.
But yeah, I can't remember the first time I really did play. I mean, it was certainly, yeah. And well, I wasn't setting up an easel on the beach at that age or anything like that.
Yeah.
But certainly we were out with sketchbooks, definitely.
You were telling me that you won a competition or something.
Well, there was when I was 10, I was on Wide Awake Club, which our British viewers might remember. It was the Young Wildlife Artist of the Year competition.
Really?
And I was in one of 6 finalists. I was the youngest. I think the oldest was 18.
Wow.
But they did take us to. So then we were painting outside.
Did you use oils?
I think I used watercolour then.
Yeah.
So I keep saying I hate watercolour, but I used it at that age. So they took us to Scomer Island in Wales, off the coast of Wales, all 6 of us for about a week.
Yeah.
And we had to paint from life there, and then they chose the winner from that, who went to Kenya.
Right, no, how many days? So you were painting every day for a week, or?
I think so.
Sort of an intense boot camp.
Yeah, exactly.
Did anyone teaching you?
And I was terrified, obviously.
Yeah.
And there was no teaching. No, it was just painting seagulls, essentially. In my case. Yeah.
And so. And you say you got into painting basically because your family did it, right?
Yeah.
So you came from this artistic family.
Yeah.
But you didn't go to art college, did you?
No.
Which is quite interesting. You took a bit of a different route.
True, because by the time I got to sort of A levels, so early teenage years, I got also very interested in science, physics and maths in particular. Probably from Stephen Hawking's book, Brief History of Time, which was given to me at that age, and also Carl Sagan's.
The old TV, yeah.
So, and by the time I got to sort of choosing what to do at university, I just definitely didn't want to drop any of the science. So I was left with the choice of, even though I wanted to be a painter eventually, I didn't think I could do it the other way around. I didn't think I could go to art school and then come back and do maths.
Yeah.
Because I'm not particularly talented at maths or anything. So there was no way I could teach myself that. I really needed to go to a structured course. So I decided to risk it and do it, go to university and take maths and physics for as long as I felt I wanted to.
So you did maths and physics?
Yeah.
And where did you go to university?
So Warwick University for 4 years, maths and physics, and then I had a year out in which I painted quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then I went to Cambridge and did their Part 3 maths, which is horrendous. You just get people from all around the world, like very intelligent. Anyway. If you try that after a year of not doing any maths, it's a nightmare. But then after that,
how long was that? A year?
So that's a year.
Is that an MPhil? Do they call it like an?
It's their version of a master's, yeah. And then a PhD.
So you did a PhD?
Yeah, for 5 years. It was theoretical physics, nanotechnology. But my PhD's awful, but that's enough.
And you went back to painting from that, even though you.
Yes. By the time I was getting towards the end of my PhD, I was really desperate to paint, and I was really worried that I'd lost anything any sort of abilities.
Like so basically, you're a proper Renaissance man, really. If you're doing science and art and.
Couldn't possibly. Maybe, I don't know.
Like the tradition of Leonardo.
But as I think they're quite closely related.
Yeah.
Then,
And you weren't tempted to do something. I mean, it's interesting when you can get onto the value. I would argue that your time was spent better doing science than actually doing a degree at a mainstream art school. You certainly wouldn't have learned anything about painting from life in a mainstream art school. You probably did spend your time more constructively. Wouldn't you be tempted it's like, were you not tempted to do something perhaps whether art is any more or less useful than science, but to do something a bit more. Or how do you feel about the value of art compared to the value of science?
That's a good question. To myself or to...
I don't know. Yeah. Well, either to yourself or...
I mean, science obviously has a much bigger impact now, maybe, but it never. I didn't operate on that level. I suppose I was operating more selfishly in what I felt passionate about. Sort of thing. But it's difficult to say whether I would have been better off artistically going to art school or not, because I haven't got to do that experiment. I'd have to have another copy.
Whereas though if you spent 10 years solidly painting, you probably would have been further along.
Yeah. Though I was very surprised about, like after my first degree, after that 4 years, I hadn't painted. I'd painted a little bit in each holiday, but then I came back and painted for that 1 year, and I was quite amazed that I had improved technically without really doing any
doing
painting.
maths.
And it's still a bit of a mystery to me now.
Yeah, I'll ask, because for me, I didn't, funny enough, when I went to art school, I didn't paint for 10 years after going to art school, because I got completely sidetracked from painting from life, because that wasn't at art school. I only did a foundation and I kind of dropped out. But again, 10 years, I didn't go back to any painting.
Yeah.
And and to tell you the truth, I hadn't done much painting from life before then. So it was only when I started painting again that I started getting into painting from life. So how would you say that your scientific education has influenced your painting? When you say that 4 years, if it hasn't.
I don't think, because I don't think there's any specific sort of, suppose you did a course on topology or something like that. Yeah. I don't think there's nothing specific like little theorems or anything like that I'm now using. Apart from certain things in linear perspective when I have to actually do a bit of maths. But I think if you do that much of it, sort of 12 years of learning to break down problems and gaining confidence in big projects that you have to do and things like that, sort of problem solving skills, I think that carries across. And also certainly in work, like when I work on the street, as you know, quite a lot, where you have to work fast for say 90 minutes while the sun's all changing and everything. That's very reminiscent for me in terms of the way you have to think critically and quickly. That feels a lot like the old maths exams.
Oh, right. So you have to work out problems in the time limit.
Yeah, so you have to sort of make sure you're not wasting too much time on that particular problem.
Yeah.
And you've got all this stuff going on in your head all the time, which you have to sort of hold in the front of your head. And it definitely feels like doing maths with...
Yeah, would you say there were like sort of skills that you might learn doing art that would transfer to other areas of life? Do you know what I mean? Like say as a plein air painter that you went and did maths, you might have those organisational skills or...
Yeah, I don't know actually, good question. I don't know. I genuinely don't know the answer to that. Because I didn't do it the other way around.
The other way around, yeah. Because I've always felt that painting from life is a technology.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So there are, and for me, there's physical the how of painting. There are kind of almost like laws of science to do with proportion.
Yeah.
To do with light and dark, and to do with kind of how colour behaves. There are, I suppose we can talk. You mentioned a book, the biology of seeing.
Yes.
Which was all about kind of cones in the eyes and how it all works.
Yeah.
But generally, when you're learning to paint, if you teach people these laws of that like this is height and width for something to be accurate has the height and width ratio has got to be the same, or how light and dark values behave. Do you think your scientific training helped you understand stuff like that, like the visual phenomena?
Yes. I think there's also an element of because I'm not like sort of naturally great at maths and physics. I had to try very hard, ridiculously hard to sort of get to grips with general relativity or whatever. So when you then come back to just understanding those things, it kind of feels a little bit easier compared to all that stuff.
A lot easier then,
And so it does help understand all that, definitely. Because it is that is a technical understanding thing, so it would. But I think there's when you say that it's a technology, I think there's a lot more of it. There's a lot more beyond it being a...
Well, the art side of things, like what you just choose to paint.
Yes.
So in some ways that creates, I suppose that's your own personal take on things. The subjective qualities probably can't be taught, but the actual...
Yeah, no, I agree.
There's a lot of technology that isn't taught that would make people's lives a lot easier if it was. Yeah,
and they would just have more skills in there set, right? So
well, I think they'd understand what they were looking at a lot better.
Yeah.
It's like there's the old cliche, you're learning to see.
Yeah.
When they say, and it's like, well, literally, you're learning how you perceive stuff.
Yeah.
And people, I think, can be taught that and practice it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of there.
Yeah, without having to spend years. I mean, you yourself, you pretty much did it from your own trial and error, right?
Yeah, and I did. Yes, because you're kind of forced to if you're largely self-taught. And I think there are advantages to that.
Yeah.
Partly because, well, as I say, you're forced to. I think you might get a deeper appreciation of the medium because you're doing it based on, like, someone's not top down. It's not a top down teaching thing. You're kind of making all the errors yourself, rather than someone saying don't do this. You make that error yourself, and then you have to work out why it's gone wrong. And at that point, you might find out by reading a book or whatever.
Yeah. Do you get it on a deeper level if you discover it yourself than if you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the best way of learning anything. Almost.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you do. I mean, for instance, so I was introduced to kind of like the literature, say, or the things like Harold Speed. Are you familiar with those books, or?
No, I'm not actually.
Not read them. So how, you've got the books that are written for art students in the 1920s that cover this craft or technology, and you read them and like you think you've understood it, but you do have to actually put it into practice, and then suddenly it clicks.
It's exactly the same with maths. Actually, they always say there's no point in just reading the book and like reading the proof and reading. A much better way of learning is to just get the problem sets and do them, and come up against the problems yourself. Yeah, so it is actually quite similar in painting as well. Now you mention it.
And so, how would you? So, how long do you think it took you to get to the sort of where the standard that you are today, or something comparable from being self-taught?
I think I think I made quite a sort of a breakthrough technically in that year out after Warwick University. I remember painting this picture of a violin, which is a very boring composition, but just the sort of brush skills or whatever. But I don't know, it's difficult to say because I think I view it more like I'm not reaching a certain level and then that's it. I'm always, I suppose every artist is always changing all the time. So I think there was a breakthrough that year, and then when I took it up full time in 2011, I deliberately went more painterly and at least, well, not initially, but quite soon. I deliberately went less tight, less sort of realistic.
And how did you go about that? What was that like?
I think I drew upon like a lot of my favourite painters at the time, and because even though in those years I wasn't painting, I was looking at a lot of work, like I was looking at a lot of Pete Brown's stuff and Tom Coates I've mentioned already, and I would just look at them really loads and just imagine it, so when it came to sort of trying to explore that way of working,
just sort of taking risks and experimenting.
Yeah, and also I'd say. Sort of, as soon as you work outside, you've got no choice. There's no way you're going to be in hyper-realism, standing in the snow, right, or on a street or whatever. It's impossible. So you're just forced to become loose and work quicker. So I think it was a combination of those two things, of having looked at all this work for so long, and I very quickly after I went full time, I was working outside most of the time. So.
Would you say it had something to do with drawing, like doing less drawing or underdrawing, or as you paint, or kind of drawing? For me, it's like you draw as you go along more. Yeah,
because that was one of the ways in which that was one of the failings of my first outdoor work, was that I would do a much more detailed, not drawing in pencil, I'd be drawing in paint on board or canvas, and then it's a very big risk of it becoming a coloured in drawing then. So, but as I progressed, I definitely almost did a big tonal thing. Yeah. And then drew into that of anything I wanted.
Yeah. Sort of start, because I've seen you start off in very abstractly when you do kind of figures and stuff like that in the Dulwich art group.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think if you want to be if you want your work to be tonally dominant, I think you got to draw in tone. You got to.
You've got to get those down first. The big kind of areas. And
in fact, it's quite a good thing to do when you're working on the street, is to do that tonal thing and then turn the brush around and draw into that. Yeah. Using the hard end of the brush.
Yeah, I do that. to put my highlights in. That's what I tell my students to do before they start putting highlights in and things like that. It's like mark them out first. Yeah. Well, I find you always drawing as you go along. It's like when I think this is the classic student thing. Or a lot of people are taught to draw first, and then you get attached to that drawing underneath, and that's where you're painting.
You get attached to it.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
And then as you get, I think we all go through that process.
Yeah.
In learning to become more painterly, and then it's figuring out that you can draw as you go along continually.
Exactly. Yeah.
Redoing the drawing.
And to learn that it's fine to destroy what you've done already.
Yeah.
In part or whatever. And don't worry, because you're still just as good to draw 10 minutes later as you were.
No, exactly.
So,
I particularly, one thing that really stands out about your work for me is your use of colour.
Right.
So you have this sort of combination of very muted, very kind of often cool, kind of neutral tones, and then just the very subtle, really vivid colours, particularly in some of your pastels or in some of the figures. That you so how did that evolve?
It's a good question. Yeah, I guess it's partly the way I see the world, and I guess I was always very worried about, because some of the work I kind of see that I find and I don't like is stuff where the colours are too strong, too garish, and I think I don't see the world like that. I see it much more tonally, so that's why I draw back on it. And I think if you do have little then punches of colour, the eye fills it in like it.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a genuine effect, is that you don't actually have to fill the whole colour area in, just it happens in the human visual system. But it's kind of become so intuitive now that it's difficult to say.
You're not even thinking when you're doing it.
Exactly.
You just pick colours up and put it, because you've got these little kind of bright turquoise marks. Or even I've seen some in your shadows where there's like greens.
Yeah.
And
what happens there is that I'm kind of I'm staring at the shadows.
Yeah.
And I remember Ken Howard saying that there's never anything that's really black.
Yeah.
And whilst that might actually sometimes I do go really, really dark, but if you look at it long enough, you can kind of just pick up this weird sort of shimmering greenness or something, or orange or something like that. So I tend to just exaggerate that a bit and pull it out a bit. And I think I'm doing it too much now.
Well, I think you're successful at it, because it's one of these things that I think, again, with a lot of people had a very colourist educator or teachers who said, "Oh no, can you see the colours there?" So they push these colours.
Yeah.
That it's very easy, as you say, to overdo it.
Yeah.
And like pump in like really bright colours, and it's actually been too much, or it's not. It has to be so subtly done.
Yeah.
And so for instance, my stuff's very tonal, so I don't hardly put
very much.
Everything I do is kind of flesh tone, so I rarely push more extreme colours.
Yeah.
And it's something I kind of try and do sometimes. I don't think I've got the hang of it.
I think because I almost always will tone the colour down, even with the one that when I'm sort of doing more bright colours or whatever, more intense colours, I might add the complementary a bit.
Yeah.
So if it's a blue, I'll put a little bit of orange in just to bring it, desaturate it a little bit. Almost always, especially in sky.
Somewhere to balance it out somewhere else in the painting.
Or even if I'm in a really blue sky, I'll put grey in it or orange, because it's not. I just don't think it is that blue.
Well, this is the thing. Colour shimmers, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's all like when you look at colour, it changes in front of your eyes, and it's kind of capturing. This is when you do portraits and things. It's so much more about form. That obviously it's good you think about colour, but you're not forced to push the colours when we're outside. There's so many more colours going on,
and you never know what might come past.
Well, no, I think it's getting that being able to put all those colours in gives it the realism that you're looking at something that's emitting a light, or do you know what I mean?
And the other thing a lot of people talk about limited palette kind of work. And I mean, my palette has got way too many colours. But it seems to me that the word palette should really just refer to what's on the. Shouldn't refer to your actual palette. It refers to the palette you're using. So it doesn't matter if you've got. If you're actually instinctively only on a particular day using about 4, then it's going to be limited. So I tend to squeeze them out. Almost everything, just for psychological reasons, so that I know it's there if I need it, and then not use it.
Not use, Do you kind of think of So how much do you use colours straight out of the tube, like when you use these vivid colours?
Yeah.
Or do you think, so I kind of think of colour, basically, when I have lots of different colours, they're either in reds or yellows or blues. They're variations. Obviously, you've got greens, which is a mixture, but they're, you know, it's kind of like whether I'm, say with a limited palette where you've got your cool colour, you've got your red or your yellow, say like the Zorn, do you know the Zorn palette that is quite
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like yellow ochre, cadmium red,
yeah.
ivory black, so it's a yellow, red, blue, but very good for flesh tones, so it's very convenient. But then, you know, when I use like different yellows in landscape painting, or different, you know, you've got alizarin crimson or kind of rose madder, and then red, you know, I still think of all these different colours in the same way. It's just variations.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
But then that's why all my colours come out a bit grey, maybe, because I'm not using enough colour straight out of the tube.
Right. See, again, it's still so instinctive for me now that I'm doing it without really. Because I tend to mix. I tend to do like quite a lot of. I'll stand there and just mix colours for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And not do anything on the.
Right.
And so I've got a basic things that I can relax and work with then, and then I'll do more mixing on and then sort of applying. So no, it's hardly ever straight out of the tube. Maybe one dot here or there.
Right. To get that real saturated. And I don't know, what was it? So we're saying that. And so, what advice have you got for kind of?
Yeah, I'm always always slightly reluctant to advise. Like everyone's the authority on their work and what they
want. We're all a bit dogmatic when it comes.
Yeah, but I would say, like we were talking about earlier, I suppose my biggest bit of advice would be to try to think of your work mainly about producing the paintings that you want to do and responding to things that interest you visually, right? And sort of make that the central part of what you're about. And then when you run into problems, that's when you start to worry then worry about the techniques. Problem solving. So as opposed to sometimes worry with some sort of some artists that are maybe then fairly new to it. I'll go on a course straight away, and then for the rest of their life, almost they're thinking, now what was I supposed to be doing? What did that guy tell me to do? Or whatever. And I think that's the wrong way to. I think you should be always operating on the level of what is it about this thing that's visually interesting to me, which may change halfway through the painting or whatever. But if you make that the central part of what your work is about, I think that's the best way of. I think you then actually do have a deeper appreciation of the problems themselves and a different and the medium. So even if it's like a 5-minute figure drawing, right? I always sit at the beginning and think, what do I find interesting about it? What shadow or whatever? And then I've got like 5 minutes to try and capture that, rather than thinking, I'm just drawing a figure and how do I do it? Whatever. So so
to really think about the why.
Yeah. Because it's got to be, otherwise why do it almost?
I think it's definitely an easy trap, like for instance, in my own education and also the like in any atelier schools where they're teaching sight sets, it's like, right, you're going to do this cast and you've got to, and you're right, it probably suppresses that thing. And I'm probably guilty of that. I mean, for me, I'm very fascinated by the how.
Yes.
And
it is fascinating. It's
part of my own, like, I change my mind so much, so it's like whenever I do think of a why, I can it goes somewhere else so quickly, so I end up just focusing on and some of my favourite paintings are the ones that I haven't thought much about, as opposed to the ones where I've been thinking, well, why am I doing this, kind of almost disappear up my own, I don't know.
Up your own. No, you're right. I think what happens in those paintings is that you are working more instinctively, but even though those instincts are based on years of
practice,
more overt.
It's a funny.
thought.
I mean, but you're right. At the end of the day, art is the art in capital. Is the why.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And I think because there's been so little craft taught that we tend to get hung up on. There's a reactionary.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes, that's probably true actually. I suppose the other thing I would say, I'm going to loads of advice now, but no, would be, I think there's a certain trap some people can fall into of sort of doing let's do another one of those paintings where they spend their whole life almost doing the same piece of work over and again because they've got a set of tricks.
Yeah,
and they like doing those.
Well, I think commercially that's what
that's
a lot of galleries like.
Yeah, so
you kind of you create a product.
Yeah.
And then you can.
Which is why I
replicate the product because that's at the end of the day what often people want from you.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I personally fight against, would like to fight against, try and fight against. So that it's partly why I quite like doing my own shows where I hire a space.
Yeah.
There's no influence of anyone. So, yeah, and I think so. And also trying lots of different mediums because I think that's another way of sort of jolting you out of your own of your current way of working, and reading art. I have an art book on the go all the time.
Oh right.
I read a page a day, just a page a day.
What sort of art? What like art history?
Yes, or I just read Daniel Shadbolt's Painting the Head.
Okay. Yeah.
For instance, and I'm now reading a book on self-portraits by Andrew James. And
I've got that actually.
Yeah. And you might only get one thing out of it.
Yeah.
But that might jolt you out into a new direction. So I think it's good to sort of keep trying. Definitely just keep trying new things all the time.
I think something I get from what you're saying is like keep broadening your horizons.
Yeah.
So keep it's quite easy to kind of do your thing that you do, like you say, like I probably do, but then it's just to see shows, find out more about.
Yeah.
This is the great thing now with the internet is we can become more aware of different artists, not just contemporary, but also art. From art history, like really eclectic.
Yes.
Things like before we were just exposed to what you might see in an art gallery, but then suddenly it's like a Google search and then there's like some obscure Italian impressionist painter.
Yeah.
You think, wow, who's this guy? Or do you know when you go on Pinterest or something?
Yes, and that's true. And with contemporary work, I mean, social media.
Yeah.
It's a kind of mixed blessing, really, because you think you're doing alright, you think you're having a good phase, and then someone will post up something awesome, and you think,
no, it's definitely. We live in a little small. I was having this conversation with Tom Hughes, who I interviewed before, and it was like we do live in a small little world of the kind of people that show at the male galleries.
Yes.
And but we're alright. We're young. It's the older, the older generation who've kind of been very established in that little bubble now. That there's a lot more younger people coming up snapping at their heels.
That's true. Oh, yeah, that's true. Though there's still
there's still time for us.
Although there's still some. I mean, look at Fred Kuman's work, still producing great work in his 80s.
No, they're not all.
Which is one reason I think, going back to making the decision about what you're going to do with your life. I think it's the ideal career, painting, precisely because you can keep producing and developing until you die, literally, whereas no one produces the sort of Fermat's last theorem proof in the 90s, do they? It's always when they're very young.
Yeah.
So painting, you can.
Yeah, it's true. So would you say it's a bit like sport, being a scientist? You've got to be like.
It is a young person's game.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least that's what we're always told. I think it's slightly different now because it takes more to get to the cutting edge. But there are sort of 19-year-olds that have done revolutionary maths and stuff, and then not done anything.
Yeah. Well, I suppose Einstein. How old was he when he did? Was he 40 or?
He was pretty young when he was doing special relativity. General relativity took him a lot longer. But someone like, it was a Galois or whatever. He was 19 when he produced this revolution, and then next day he got killed in a duel. I think that's right.
Oh well, what would he have done if he hadn't been killed?
True. Okay. So but I think it's different. So it's different with painting, probably because you're drawing on all kinds of influences, and becoming sort of more assured as you get older and all that.
Yeah.
And I think
is there something in art where you're basically the maturity, like the why we're talking about is? The thing is, the how takes time. It's not, is maths like, I suppose do you still have to do your 10,000 hours at 19 to come up with this?
Well, I think, so probably a little bit less, I guess. Because it's less of a motor control thing.
Yeah.
Because with painting, it's all of this subtle sort of, that's one of the fundamental differences thing, whereas maths is entirely...
Yeah. Well, what about, so painting from life involves motor control, it's physiological, so it's a craft, but say if you were some conceptual artist, you could just have that concept in the same way and just be a genius at
or not
straight out. The thing of that is because conceptual art's philosophical, isn't it? It's like
it's conceptual.
What is art? all of that stuff.
I find it very difficult to judge whether it's good or not.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it works. Did you know who's the old? Is it John? Not John Cohen. Who's the guy that does the light boxes? Some stuff is really powerful. Just works as a kind of visual.
Yeah.
What's his name? He's some crazy American artist who builds like light temples and stuff. I'm going to put his name underneath, but his stuff's amazing. But it's not conceptual, it's just like visually.
Yeah, and I like a lot of video art and stuff like that.
But then when you get into like stuff that you just like, what's that? And then you actually read about it a bit and you think, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, it doesn't motivate me.
No, I'm in two minds about it.
Yeah. Like I remember doing the Dadaists at art school when I did my foundation. I was like, what is this bollocks? But then I remember watching like a TV program or read something about them, and I was like, oh, actually. And then you see that how they've influenced, like, and you think, oh,
yeah,
actually,
no, exactly.
We're all ignorant about things, and we think stuff's rubbish, but we don't actually know.
I know, and if you become if you try and become more of a connoisseur in that area, then you'll
forget something. I mean, you've got to do what appeals to you. So like, I've got no interest. It doesn't even much as I've got more appreciation of art. It's still not my thing. And I'd much rather paint from life. You know what I mean? Whereas other people, it's like that blows their mind. What is art? And then they start playing that. Tracy Emin starts doing the bed and all that kind of stuff, and it's different strokes, isn't it?
It is.
So what next? So what are you up to?
So I'm currently, the last however many years, 8 years, 6 years, I've been doing a lot of work on the street, and at the moment I'm much more in the studio, so partly why I came to Dulwich Art Group. So I'm doing more portraits and still life, and I'm planning a portrait and still life show, which I've postponed I think twice, partly because portraiture is a tough game, and I want it to be
commissions. Right. For me, I want to move out of commissions. And start doing, because obviously we've got, like if you look at the American art market and people like Jeremy Lipkin who are doing these kind of, I don't know what you call them, genre paintings, but they're like figures and they're kind of portraits that aren't commissions basically. Or subject matter.
Well, exactly. I don't want really any of my work. Well, maybe there'll be 1 or 2 commissions in this exhibition I'm planning, but I want to sort of work with models and people that I find whose faces I want to paint. But I'm still working on. I'm still doing outdoor work. So I've got. What am I doing? I've got a show with Island Fine Arts in Chichester in September. So I'm doing. I've just been to Chichester and painted there for a week. So I've got a show there. We've both got paintings in the Royal Society Portrait Painters Show.
Is that the next thing?
And I've got a few still lifes in Highgate Highgate Contemporary Art.
Right.
In a show in May.
When's the New English Arts Club?
Oh yeah, there's that as well. That is in. I should have all these dates on the top of my head, but I don't. It's in June.
June.
So I'll
that's probably the next place anyone in the UK or London. To come and check out some of your work.
Or in the portraits before that.
Which one did you get in? Omar.
Both actually.
Oh, you got both. Well done.
So that was
because they're both from the Dulwich Art Group.
They are both from the Dulwich Art Group. What's funny about those is that Omar just appeared again on Instagram. Someone else, Charlie Pickard, just.
That's a good one actually.
It's funny how these models.
He gets about. He's been in one of my classes.
And like Hugh, he's everywhere, isn't he?
Hugh is the there's a demo I did of Hugh. One of my first YouTube videos is of Hugh, which is probably my most popular one. It's quite easy to paint.
Brilliant face to paint.
That's why I picked him. It's my first live demo. If I get someone distinctive.
Right.
And
it's just quite funny that he like Tim Benson will paint him and then he'll appear someone else.
They do the rounds. No, Omar's been getting about. No, it's a good one. And it's got the nice. You've got the he's got what do you do? You've got his like shirt. So painting.
So I've started doing this thing. I really enjoy it actually for a number of reasons, and that's I paint portraits on top of plein air work that I don't like, pieces that I don't like, or I might start doing it on pieces I do like. And so I'll selectively sort of leave bits of the painting underneath. I think it was James Bland that gave me that idea.
Well, he looks like he's wearing. I think he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and then you've got him,
so
like,
it kind of blends
like
into it. So you can see a sort of London bus through his chest. Yeah. And I like the effects of it, so I'm starting to do that more. And one of the reasons it's enjoyable in a way is that you don't give a monkeys about the surface that you're working on, because it's not this brand new canvas or anything. So I quite like working with stuff that I don't really care. I don't sort of precious about.
Yeah.
If it's an old painting, you just don't care about it. It somehow makes you work better for some reason.
Is it on a board? Was it on a board?
That was canvas. So but I've done since done more on board as well. Yeah. So each time I go into the Dulwich Art Group, I bring an old rubbish bit of plein air with me and paint on top of it. So I would recommend that, actually. Yeah.
Alright, brilliant. Right, I think we'll wrap it up there then.
Alright.
So thank you very much, Ben.
Pleasure, thanks for asking me.
So if you can make it down to the New English Arts Club or the RP at the Mall Galleries to check out some of Ben's work, and also one of mine, it's in the RP. And I hope you like this video. And please leave comments and let me know what you think. And thank you for watching.